Hello, and welcome to Pitch Please. It's a show where I give you a guided tour of a rabbit hole you might not have fallen down yet. Today, we're talking about America's original art form, jazz. Cue the intro.
Pitch please, look at this thing, can you believe it? Pitch please, coolest thing that I've ever seen it. Pitch please, welcome to Pitch
So I know what you're thinking. Jazz, isn't that just for old men? I mean, I knew you were old, but not that old. I thought you were a punk. You're right. I am old. Thanks for bringing that up. And I am a punk. But I, like anyone interesting, like and listen to a wide variety of music. There's 1,500 records here. If they were all punk records, it'd get dull pretty fast. I got into jazz in the 6th grade when, after a story too dark for the internet, I first discovered music as more than something to have on in the background. It was really the first time I consciously decided to get into something, like really get into something. And I figured if I was going to be a music obsessive, I should start at the beginning. And the beginning of modern music for me was jazz. Now obviously there was music being made in America before jazz. There was ragtime, classical, blues, folk, etc. But jazz came about just as the technology to record music was invented, and the LP, which is a format we obviously still have today, was popularized, which meant it spread far and fast for the time. That, plus the touring vaudeville shows and being born in the port city in New Orleans, meant it became America's first real cultural export. By taking European classical music that these early jazz pioneers had been trained in, and mixing it with musical traditions born of the slave trade, of course it goes back to slavery. This is an American art form, after all. These black musicians love to burst any racist bubbles out there, but yes, jazz was created by black folks. So was rock and roll, and hip-hop, and techno, and really almost everything else worth talking about in American culture. They made it, and folks that look like me stole it, which seems to be our legacy. But I digress. Created a new form of music that could not be created anywhere but here. And best of all, it's party music. When I worked midnights at 7-Eleven, something I'm sure to bring up too much on this channel, I used to play music all night through a shitty set of speakers in the corner. I'd plug in my iPod and try to drown out the infinitely idiotic general public as they shambled in throughout the night. In the morning was when the crowd switched from drunks and junkies to folks coming in for their morning coffee. One morning, one of my regulars, a woman who got an extra large French vanilla coffee, 2 packs of Pall Mall red shorts, a paper, and had a son with a heroin problem, still up there, came in and heard me listening to jazz. She made the mistake of saying that all jazz sounded the same. This seems to be a common sentiment, seeing as I was also in a band briefly with a drummer who said all jazz used the same drum beat. He didn't last that long. In band or in life, if I recall, after taking one too many Percocets and driving off a bridge. Seeing this as an educational opportunity, for the next few weeks, I played a different type of jazz every morning at work. It made for some very interesting mornings. The fact that there are so many ways to play jazz is why it caught fire across the globe. It was truly new music. Completely new things rarely happen. Imagine turning on the radio and the DJ plays a song that sounds like absolutely nothing that came before it. It's a whole new approach to a range sound. And most importantly, it gets you fucking moving. You would flip out too. The last time that might have happened was when people started making music with computers. This variety is one of the things that attracts me to jazz. You can always go deeper and find something new to love. There is a subgenre of jazz for every occasion. Rainy night, feeling lonely? Cool jazz. Looking to freak out? Free jazz. Wanna dance? Dixieland or swing. Cocktail party or anime about a space cowboy bounty hunter? Bebop, baby. There's always something new around the corner. That playability that allows jazz to be shaped and morph into new and exciting things makes it, along with the blues, the root of all the music that I love that comes after it. The improvisational nature of the guitar solo, the jam band, wouldn't exist without jazz. You could draw a direct line from Louis Armstrong to the Stooges, and from there to all of punk rock. Louis Armstrong to Miles Davis to Coltrane to the Stooges, for those of you who want me to show my work at home. A few years after I became a music nerd, I also started down the path to become a musician. This is also around the time YouTube came into existence. And yeah, I know, I'm old. I get it. Let me tell you, I would spend hours watching jazz drummers like Buddy Rich and Max Roach and just thinking to myself, I'm never going to be this good. Jazz musicians have an unreal amount of talent. The complex timings, the inventive song structures, the improv skills. They're unmatched in any other music genre. Honestly, if you're just starting out making music like I was, it might be best to brace yourself or risk being discouraged. It's probably almost as discouraging as seeing those child prodigies that are leagues better than you when you've been playing for multiple decades. So, if I've convinced you to give jazz a shot, great. I'm going to give you some record recommendations in a second, but first I'm going to give you advice on just how to listen to jazz. Because of the variety, while amazing, it can also make jazz seem daunting and impenetrable. People will hear something labeled jazz and assume, like my former customer and my former bandmate, that it all sounds like this, so they must not like it. What's important to do, not just with jazz by the way, but with any art that you're getting into, is to find what you like about what you're listening to, and, just as importantly, what you don't like. With that in mind, let's go through some tentpole albums and artists, and from there, you'll be able to drill down into the subgenres you like. At the forefront of a lot of movements in jazz, you'll find one artist that is out there pushing those boundaries. We're talking about, of course, Miles Davis. Miles Davis started off in the 40s in a group led by Charlie Parker, someone else you should listen to. He quickly struck out on his own and started pioneering new evolutions in jazz. I'm going to recommend two very different albums here to highlight the breadth of his output. The first being his first outing as a band leader. And probably my favorite jazz album? We're talking The Birth of Cool. It helped spawn cool jazz, go figure, and just kind of has everything you want from jazz. It's got fast numbers and drum solos, slow songs to be romantic to, and just a great warm production that falls just perfectly between the early rough recordings that are tinny and harsh, and more modern production that could be too surgical and sterile. The last song, Darn That Dream, is one of my personal favorites, and was on many a mix CD I made for high school crushes. On the other side of the Miles Davis spectrum, we have the 1970s album Bitches Brew, which is a landmark piece of jazz fusion. A four-sided, 93-minute, sprawling freakout, Bitches Brew is music that makes me wish I did drugs. I mean, the dude puts his trumpet through a wah pedal. It's a journey, but a fun and freaky one, so hit the lights and just go with it. Next up, we have a member of Miles Davis's band, John Coltrane, who pioneered his own evolutions in jazz, and I'm sure Miles was perfectly fine sharing the spotlight with him. But only one of them was worshipped as a god, though, so... Coltrane was one of the greatest in hard bop, and that is really exemplified on the album, Giant Steps. Almost all the pieces on this album have become jazz standards. You know it's good when people have to learn it in school, right? Polyphonic, another YouTuber, has a video explaining why the title track alone is so revolutionary, and he explains it much better than I could. What I will say, though, is this is a great record for a summer backyard hang. From Giant Steps, we have the evolution of Coltrane himself into a post-bop era with A Love Supreme, something I don't have a physical copy of yet. If Giant Steps is a summer backyard hang, this is a midnight deep conversation hang. It's cool and confident and just feels like a record from a man trying to shine his light for all to see. Coltrane for me, though, is at his coolest when he's pioneering free jazz, which is why I'm also going to recommend the record Interstellar Space. Another record I need a copy of. Another chaotic album full of long tracks made to be put on as a soundtrack to your own inward exploration. This record opens you up to a tempo-less soundscape made by artists pushing their instruments to do things they were not designed to do. Plus, it's the only time I've ever liked sleigh bells. There are countless jazz musicians I could recommend further, like Louis Armstrong, or Art Blakey, or Max Roach, or Buddy Rich, or Ella Fitzgerald, or Art Tatum, or Duke Ellington, or Billie Holiday, who is one of a handful of artists that if you don't enjoy, I think there might be something medically wrong with you. And on and on. Honestly, all of them are worthy of having their own dedicated video. Luckily, with jazz, all these artists were constantly playing with each other. So if you find someone you like, you can follow them around and most likely bump into the rest. But I'd like to leave you with someone very special to me, Thelonious Monk. Thelonious Sphere Monk was a composer and pianist unlike any other. His improvisations were confounding, his compositions eclectic. You never knew where on the keys he was going to go, and that is thrilling. And yet, the result is so soothing and inviting. So much so that a lot of his original works have also become jazz standards. It's music that, as you hear it, makes you want to know the mind that could think like that. A mind that could compose like this, and take two seemingly disjointed ideas and fit them together so beautifully. All this makes Monk one of my favorite musicians of all time. Plus, he's got such a cool name. Thelonious Sphere Monk? Come on. There are two records I'd like to recommend if you're looking to get into Monk. First, Solo Monk. I'm a sucker for simplicity. Just an artist, their instrument, their song, no fancy production tricks, no band to hide behind, just them and their compositions straight down the barrel of a microphone. That is exactly what you get with this record. Also, this record by Art Tatum, recorded secretly at a party. It's no frills, just an artist doing what he does best. Perfect for a rainy day or a late night. On the other end of the Monk spectrum is this record, Thelonious Monk with John Coltrane. Remember him? I told you they bump into each other. What's great about Monk playing in a group is his ability to play in spaces where the other members aren't. He plays almost against the others, filling in the gaps that teeters on discordant in a way that makes his playing stand out but never tipping into complete noise. He's still playing with the band, but doing it while playing where they're not. It's something I try to keep in mind whenever I'm playing with people. Even though I play a very different type of music. How can I play something unique while elevating the song and everyone else is playing? It's a very hard thing to do, but he does it with style, and here he's doing it with another giant of the jazz world. What a treat. And with that, I think we've come to the end of the first episode of Pitch Please. I hope this is just your first step on a journey of loving jazz. If you're already a jazz freak, let me know some of your favorite records down in the comments. Do all the normal YouTube things, social media, and stuff like that. If you're interested in reading this rant and future rants, instead of having to stare at my ugly mug the whole time, I'm going to post this script as a blog with some embedded songs so you can hear what I'm talking about without me getting a copyright strike. I'll link to it in the notes below. So stay tuned for more episodes, and as always, death to the algorithm.
Death to the algorithm. Death to the algorithm.